Welcome back to the Choose Him podcast. Today we are doing something a little bit different. We're celebrating the Faith, Love, and Justice series in honor of Black History Month. I want to be clear, though, this is not a political channel at all.
Right.
But it is a channel where we look at how faith intersects with important events and important individuals.
Absolutely.
And today we are going to be diving deep into the life of Fannie Lou Hamer.
Yes.
A woman who truly embodied faith in action during the civil rights movement. Her story, it really resonates with that choose him message, showing how faith can really be a driving force for change and for justice.
It's fitting, isn't it? Because Fannie Lou Hamer's story is a testament to the power of faith to fuel the pursuit of love and justice. She was a woman who faced incredible adversity, yet her spirit remained unbroken. Her deep faith was her anchor.
Okay, so let's dive into her story. I think a lot of people, know her name, but maybe not the details of her life. And it's a life that began, with such humble beginnings. She was one of 20 children, born into a sharecropping family in Mississippi.
Sharecropping, for those unfamiliar, was a system that trapped many Black families in a cycle of poverty after the Civil War.
Right.
Essentially, they farmed land owned by white landowners and were paid a share of the crops, but often remained in debt to the landowner. So imagine growing up in that kind of environment.
It's hard for me to even fathom the poverty and hardship she must have endured. She started working in the cotton fields alongside her family at a very young age. I read an account where she talked about picking 30 pounds of cotton a week when she was just 6 years old, just for a chance to get simple treats like, Cracker Jacks and sardines, things she had never tasted before.
It's heartbreaking, yeah.
Now, Hamer didn't become involved in the civil rights movement until she was in her 40s, right? Yeah. It wasn't a path she was born into, but something that came to her later in life.
That's right. She had her own awakening to the injustices of the Jim Crow South. And once she made the decision to get involved, it was driven by a deep personal commitment to God.
She even described it as a promise she made to God to fight for change.
And that promise led her to attempt to register to vote in 1962.
And that, sadly, is where we see just how dangerous the fight for civil rights truly was. She faced immediate retaliation from her white employer for simply trying to register.
This was the reality of the Jim Crow South. Black people faced incredible obstacles when it came to voting. Literacy tests, poll taxes, intimidation. These weren't just bureaucratic hurdles. They were designed to suppress Black voters.
And Hamer was targeted for her attempt to exercise this basic right. I mean, she's fired from her job. And then, tragically, she and the family she was staying with were targeted in a drive-by shooting.
These events were a stark reminder of the risks involved in challenging the status quo in the South at the time.
Yeah, it's almost unimaginable. But that wasn't the worst of it. In 1963, she was brutally beaten by police for, again, simply trying to exercise her right to vote.
She was arrested with a group of fellow activists in Winona, Mississippi. And while in police custody, she endured a horrific beating. They ordered 2 inmates to beat her with a blackjack while officers held her down.
It's difficult to even speak about the details, but it's important to remember the extent of the brutality she endured.
Yeah.
They beat her until those men were exhausted, and then another officer took over, striking her in the head. And when she cried out in pain, they beat her even harder.
The physical and emotional scars of that experience were lasting. She suffered permanent kidney damage and a blood clot in her eye.
Wow. It's truly a testament to her strength and resilience that she continued to fight for justice after experiencing such horrific violence.
Her faith undoubtedly played a significant role in her ability to persevere. She saw her activism as a calling, a way to serve God by serving her community.
And what's even more incredible is she had only learned that Black people had the right to vote just 2 years before that incident. Imagine that, going your entire life without even knowing you had that fundamental right.
It's a testament to how deeply entrenched voter suppression was. But once she knew, she became this incredible force for change, organizing voter registration drives, and educating Black communities about their rights.
It makes you really pause and consider the depth of her faith, and it makes her role in founding the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, MFDP, even more inspiring.
The MFDP was an incredibly important alternative to the segregated, white-dominated Democratic Party in Mississippi. It was born out of frustration and disenfranchisement, right? It aimed to give Black Mississippians a voice in a system that had systematically silenced them.
And Hamer, with her powerful voice and unwavering conviction, quickly became a key leader in the MFDP.
And that brings us to a pivotal moment in her story, her testimony at the 1964 Democratic National Convention.
This is the moment that truly brought her to national attention. It was a powerful moment watching this woman who had endured so much stand up and challenge the nation's conscience. She demanded equal representation for Black Mississippians.
Her words resonated with people across the country.
Imagine the courage it took to stand up and challenge the all-white Mississippi delegation on such a public stage.
Her words were so powerful, weren't they? I mean, to stand there and say, if the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated, now I question America. Is this America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off the hooks because our lives are threatened daily because we want to live as decent human beings in America?
Her words still hold so much power today, sadly.
It sends chills down your spine.
Oh, it does. And for those who might not know, the Freedom Democratic Party, this was an organization founded by Black Mississippians because they were being excluded from the regular Democratic Party.
Right.
And that quote, it just encapsulates the fear, the injustice, but also this unwavering determination
Yes.
of those fighting for their rights.
And you can see how her faith fueled that determination.
What's truly remarkable is that President Johnson actually tried to overshadow her testimony by calling a last-minute press conference. He wanted to divert attention away from her message.
He may have tried to silence her, but thankfully the networks replayed her speech later, ensuring her words reached a wider audience. It's a testament to the power of truth and the impact of her story.
Even though the MFDP wasn't fully seated at the convention, Hamer's testimony helped expose the deep injustices of the Jim Crow South and ultimately helped galvanize support for the Voting Rights Act.
It was a critical step forward in the fight for voting rights for Black Americans. But that was just one chapter in Hamer's long fight for justice.
That's right. And we'll delve into more of her story right after.
After a quick break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After a quick break.
Paul and Silas began to shout, "Let my people go." Jail door opened and they walked out. Let my people.
Hamer's activism, it didn't stop with the MFDP and the fight for voting rights. She knew that true equality, required more than just political power.
Absolutely.
She understood that political empowerment was essential for achieving true equality. But it wasn't just about voting. She also recognized the importance of economic empowerment. And that leads us to another remarkable chapter in her story, the founding of the Freedom Farm Cooperative in 1969.
Yeah. It was such a visionary idea for its time. This wasn't about handouts or charity. This was about creating a sustainable system where Black families could be self-sufficient.
Can you tell us a bit more about the cooperative and how it worked? What were its specific goals?
Well, it aimed to provide land, resources, and opportunities for Black families to build a better future for themselves. The Freedom Farm offered a range of programs: agricultural training, healthcare, childcare. It was a holistic approach to empowerment. They wanted to grow their own food, build their own homes, and create a community where they could thrive economically.
It sounds like she really understood that true freedom had to encompass both political and economic empowerment.
Absolutely. And there's this amazing detail. They even started the Pig Project, partnering with the National Council of Negro Women to raise pigs and provide protein for those in need.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It shows a real understanding of the practical needs of the community. It wasn't just about lofty ideals, it was about addressing the day-to-day realities of poverty and hunger. And, it's a shame that the Freedom Farm Cooperative ultimately faced, significant challenges and didn't achieve all of its goals. But the vision behind it was truly remarkable.
Absolutely. And it speaks to the breadth of Hamer's activism, right? I mean, she wasn't just focused on one issue. She was fighting for systemic change.
Yeah.
And all of this, all of her work, was deeply rooted in her faith. She truly believed that God called her to fight for justice and to uplift her people. It wasn't just something that she talked about. It was something that she lived out every single day.
You can really see that in everything she did. And I think it's such a powerful example for all of us, especially those of us, trying to live out that choose him message. Fannie Lou Hamer showed us that faith isn't passive. It's about taking action. It's about fighting for what's right. And it's about using our voices to speak truth to power.
She really did embody the idea of faith in action. And what's so inspiring is that she never wavered in her faith, even when faced with incredible adversity.
I was struck by one quote in particular. She said, "Sometimes it seems like to tell the truth today is to run the risk of being killed. But if I fall, I'll fall 5 feet 4 inches forward in the fight for freedom. I'm not backing off."
It's such a powerful statement of defiance and courage.
And that quote speaks to the depth of her commitment to the cause. She was willing to risk everything, even her life, for the sake of freedom and justice.
It really makes you reflect on your own life and what you're willing to stand up for.
Right.
You know, it's so easy to get caught up in our own little worlds. But Hamer's story reminds us that there are bigger issues at stake
Mm-hmm.
and that we all have a responsibility to make a difference.
And I think it's important to remember that her faith wasn't just about fighting for justice. It was also about finding joy in the midst of struggle.
Yeah.
She had this incredible ability to laugh, to sing, to find moments of lightness even in the darkest of times.
I've heard stories about her wit and her humor.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's an important part of her story, too. Yes. She didn't let the hardship and oppression crush her spirit. You know, she found ways to stay connected to her faith, to her community, and to the things that brought her joy.
It makes her seem so much more human, so much more relatable.
Yeah.
It's not just this, larger-than-life figure. It's a real person who experienced both pain and joy, and who found strength and resilience through her faith.
And I think that's something we can all learn from. It's not about denying the difficulties of life, but about finding ways to persevere, to find hope, and to choose joy, even in the midst of adversity.
And I think we've only just scratched the surface of Fannie Lou Hamer's incredible story. There's
Yeah.
so much more to explore, so much more to learn from her life and legacy.
You know, what's really striking is that her understanding of faith wasn't just about personal piety. It was about taking action to address these injustices that she saw all around her.
Right, and we see that so clearly in her work with the Freedom Farm Cooperative.
Absolutely.
She didn't just want to help people survive. She wanted to equip them to thrive.
Yes.
It was about providing land, resources, opportunities for Black families to really build a better future.
Absolutely. The cooperative aimed to give people agency, to help break that cycle of poverty that had held Black communities captive for generations.
Yeah.
It's a really powerful example of how she connected faith with tangible action.
It wasn't just about handouts. It was about building a sustainable system where people could control their own destinies. I'm struck by the practicality of her vision.
Yes.
It wasn't just lofty ideals. It was about getting your hands dirty and working the land to create a more just and equitable society.
And that practicality, that commitment to rolling up your sleeves and doing the work is so deeply intertwined with her faith. She often spoke about the biblical principle of helping those in need, not just with charity, but with opportunities to rise above their circumstances.
Yeah. I'm also struck by how she so fearlessly spoke truth to power, even challenging those in authority. Think about her testimony at the Democratic National Convention, where she confronted the hypocrisy of a nation that claimed to champion freedom while denying basic rights to its Black citizens.
Her words were just a prophetic indictment of the systemic racism and injustice that just permeated American society at the time.
Yeah.
And yet, even in her righteous anger, there was this deep well of compassion and love. You know, she wasn't driven by hate. She was fighting out of love for her people, for her country, and for the values that she held dear.
It's so inspiring to see how she was able to weave together her faith, her fight for justice, and her deep love for her community. These weren't separate compartments in her life. They were all interconnected.
Yes, and that wholeness, that integration of faith and action is what made her such a compelling and inspiring figure. She wasn't afraid to be vulnerable, to share her struggles and her triumphs, and to invite others to join her in the fight for a better world.
Her legacy continues to challenge and inspire us to live out our faith in ways that make a tangible difference in the world. It's a reminder that faith isn't just about what we believe. It's about what we do.
Exactly. It's about using our voices, our resources, and our platforms to advocate for those who are marginalized and oppressed.
And it's about recognizing that our own liberation is bound up with the liberation of others.
Yes.
As Hamer so eloquently put it, nobody's free until everybody's free.
Yes, that's right.
Her life was just a testament to that truth.
And her story reminds us that the fight for justice is never truly over. It's an ongoing struggle that requires courage, perseverance, and an unwavering belief in the possibility of a better world. And it's a struggle that each of us is called to participate in, no matter how small our contribution may seem.
Every act of kindness, every word spoken against injustice, every effort to uplift our communities contributes to the journey towards a more just and loving world.
There's a quote from her that really embodies this spirit. "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." It's a statement of exhaustion, yes, but it's also a declaration of defiance, a refusal to accept the status quo and to sit idly by while injustice prevails.
That phrase, sick and tired of being sick and tired, has become a rallying cry for social justice movements around the world.
Right.
It speaks to that deep weariness that comes with fighting for basic human rights, for equality, for dignity. But it also carries a sense of agency, a determination to keep pushing forward, to never give up hope.
And that's the legacy that Hamer leaves us with, a legacy of courage, resilience, and unwavering commitment to justice. She showed us that faith isn't just a private matter, it's a public act.
It's about taking our beliefs and putting them into practice in our communities, in our nation, and in the world. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult, even when it's dangerous.
And it's about recognizing that the fight for justice is a collective effort. We need each other. We need to build bridges, work across lines of difference to create a world where everyone can thrive.
Hamer's life was a testament to the power of collective action. She didn't accomplish what she did on her own. She was part of a movement, a community dedicated to creating a better world. And she knew the importance of bringing people together, of building coalitions, of amplifying marginalized voices.
And that's a lesson that we can all learn from. We don't have to have all the answers, be these perfect activists. We can all do something, contribute to the struggle for justice however we can.
Whether it's speaking out against injustice, volunteering, donating to organizations, doing the work, or just having those difficult conversations with friends and family. Every action, no matter how small, can make a difference.
Hamer's story reminds us that change is possible. It may not always be easy, it may not be immediate, but it is possible. And it's up to us to continue her legacy, to carry the torch of justice, and to create a world where everyone has the opportunity to live in freedom and dignity.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the challenges that we face today. Climate change, political polarization, systemic injustice. It can all feel so daunting. But then I think about Fannie Lou Hamer and her unwavering faith, her courage in the face of violence and oppression, and it reminds me that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope.
Yes, there's always hope, always the possibility of change. And there's the power of faith to fuel our actions and guide us towards a more just and loving world.
Hamer's legacy is a reminder that we don't have to choose between our faith and our fight for justice. They can be intertwined, strengthen each other, and lead us to a deeper understanding of what it means to live a life of purpose and meaning.
And I think that's something worth reflecting on. How can we integrate our faith and our actions in a way that makes a tangible difference in the world? How can we embody Hamer's spirit of courage, resilience, and love in our own lives?
Those are powerful questions for us to consider as we continue to grapple with the challenges of our time. Hamer's story reminds us that faith isn't passive. It's a call to action.
It's a call to step outside our comfort zones, to challenge the status quo, and to work tirelessly for a world where everyone has the opportunity to flourish. And it's a reminder that we don't have to do it alone.
We have each other. We have the power of community. And we have the enduring legacy of those who came before us, paving the way for a more just and loving world.
As we move forward, let's carry Hamer's words with us. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Let that be our rallying cry, a reminder that we have the power to create change, build a better world, and live out our faith in a way that honors the dignity and worth of every human being.
And speaking of living out our faith, Fannie Lou Hamer's faith wasn't just about activism and fighting for justice. It also brought her immense joy. Even amidst her struggles, she found reasons to laugh, to sing, to celebrate.
It's a reminder that faith isn't about being gloomy or somber. It's about embracing the fullness of life with all its complexities and contradictions. It's about finding joy in the midst of sorrow, hope in the midst of despair, love in the midst of hate. And that's such a powerful message for us today. In a world that often feels so divided and polarized, we need to remember that joy and hope and love are still possible. They are still worth fighting for, and they're still the most powerful forces for change.
Fannie Lou Hamer's story reminds us that we don't have to choose between our faith and our fight for justice. They can be intertwined, strengthen each other, and lead us to a deeper understanding of what it means to live a life of purpose and meaning.
One of the things that I find most inspiring about her is this unwavering belief in the power of ordinary people to create extraordinary change. She didn't come from a position of privilege or power.
She was a sharecropper, a daughter of the South who faced just unimaginable hardship and oppression.
But she refused to be silenced, refused to give up hope. And she used her voice and her faith and her unwavering determination to make a difference in the world.
And she did. She inspired countless others to join her in the fight for justice, and her legacy continues to inspire us today. Yeah, her story is a reminder that each of us has the power to make a difference, no matter who we are or where we come from.
We can all be agents of change. We can all contribute to the building of a more just and loving world.
Thank you for helping us to celebrate one of our great American heroes.
Yeah.
As always, take care and keep choosing him every day.
That is the reason that Negroes aren't voting, that they're kept out of the Democratic Party by the terror of the regular party. And what I want the Credentials Committee to hear is the terror which the regular party uses on the people of Mississippi.
Mr. Chairman, and to the Credentials Committee, my name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer, and I live at 626 East Lafayette Street, Roosevelt, Mississippi. Sunflower County, the home of Senator James O. Eastland and Senator Steny. All of this is on account of we want to register to become first-class citizens. And if the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I question America. Is this America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off of the hook because our lives be threatened daily, because we want to live as decent human beings in America? Thank you.
I never will forget Mr. Wilkins came to me one day from the NAACP that I found out at that national convention was the National Association of the Advancement of Certain People, but it didn't include us in Mississippi. And he came to me and told me, he said, you people are ignorant. You don't know anything about politics. You put your print over. Why don't you pack up and go home? In the 4th chapter of St. Luke in 18th verse said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. It was his purpose here, was preaching and speaking to the poor. So mostly what the middle class, bourgeois, white and black, because I've seen white tongues, Negro tongues, they concerned about the person that's already got something. They're not trying to bring no change for these people don't have anything, you know. If they go into an area, they're going into the best part of the neighborhood. They're going to get with the best type of people. And you see, that's the hypocrisy of this whole country. Then 3 of us decided to run for Congress. Ms. Annie Devine, Victoria Gray, and myself. When we tried to get on the ballot, they refused to put our names on the ballot. But our names was put on a freedom ballot because we made our own ballot. And we didn't just write the black people's name on the ballot. We included the white people on the ballot. And I received 33,009 votes against my opponent's 49 votes. And I didn't say 49,000. So this made us, the 4th of January, 1965, come to Washington. We had made the challenge at the convention for the delegation. Then 1965, we were making the challenge for the 5 representative seat.
When they had the hearing before the subcommittee on election, they said, well, we won't say you're not right, but if we let you get away with this, they'll be doing it all over the South. I said, well, if all over the South need it, throw them out. Congressman Adam Clayton Powell said, if you go on the floor today, you'll be the first Negro women in the history of the United States that have ever gone on the floor of Congress. And I said, you can get your pen and start writing because we're going to make history today. Because we want to see, I want to be on the floor of Congress when I watch another part of democracy go down the drain. The police officials there at the House, you would have thought we was carrying secret information from the United States to Russia, the way they, acted as though we was carrying a bomb or something. The congressman from my district didn't say anything, but the others said enough. They couldn't even prove to the cell they was telling the truth. They said they represented the people of Mississippi, And 42% of the people we know as well as they know can't register and vote. And that's why I had to tell the congressmen there and the chairman and the committees that it's now time for America to wake up. We have been black powerless people for 400 years. I've seen people boxed in, black children, in Harlem of New York. I've seen people boxed in, black people, in Chicago, Illinois, in the slums, with the babies sick, rats eating on the babies. So what we mean by black power is we mean to have not only black political power, but black economic power, to have a voice in the educational system, that our kids will know, not only the black kids, but the white kids should know the kind of contribution that have been made by black people throughout this country. We want to determine some of our destiny. And this is what black power means. We want to have something to say about our destiny. And regardless of all the things that we went through, in 1963 or 1964, we didn't have many people registered in the Mississippi. But today we have 60% of the black population registered in Mississippi. We have 42 elected officials in the state of Mississippi. It's hard for me to stand up and sing the national anthem. I stand up and I work my mouth, but I don't always come through with the verses. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail? Because actually the land of the free and the home of the brave have meant the land of the tree and the home of the grave for so many of us. The flag is drenched with our blood, because you see, so many of our ancestors was killed because we have never accepted slavery. We had to live on it, but we've never wanted it. So we know that this flag is drenched with our blood. So what the young people are saying now, give us a chance to be young men, respected as a man. As we know, this country was built on the black backs of black people across this country. And if we don't have it, you ain't gonna have it either, because we gonna tear it up. That's what they saying. And people ought to understand that. I don't see why they don't understand that. They know what they've done to us. All across this country, they know what they've done to us. We're in the water. We're in the water. Our top priority is doing what we have to do here in our own country to try to heal some of the wounds that's so very deep. And we're going to fight for peace. We're going to demand peace until every one of us have peace in this United States. We are not dealing with men today. The 6th chapter of Ephesians and 11th and 12th verse, they put on the whole armor of God, that he may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. The 12th verse says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against power, against principalities, against the rulers of darkness of this world, spiritual weakness in high places. And people, whether you believe it or not, you better remember this today. A house divided against itself cannot stand. A nation that's divided against itself cannot stand. And it's 2 past midnight, and we on our way out.
Oliver Wendell Holmes once wrote that as life is action and passion, it is required of men and women to share the action and passion of their times at the risk of being judged not to have lived. By Holmes's standard, Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer truly lived. and it leaves to us today an irrevocable legacy of service, of commitment, of sacrifice, and of love.
She could smile, she could shout, she could make other people happy, and she, if necessary, she could cuss them out.
She wasn't afraid. Ms. Hamer talked and told it like it was, and everybody found out how people was being treated here in this Delta land. Hope in the future of this country, if it's not too late already, is with the people, what some people call the militant, the radical, or whatever you call them, black and white throughout the country. If these college campus, they are very true, they are very honest, and all they want is the thing that they've been reading about is to become a reality. And for this country to have democracy in action, it's going to come through these young people.
Today, I'm not ashamed of being black. I'm not ashamed of my history.